Look, it's fantastic to be here in Hokitika with the Mayor and the Chair of the Regional Council to announce funding for improvement of the stock banks down on the Waihau River down in Franz Josef. This is a partnership project between the government and PDU, Provincial Development Unit, and councils, territorial authorities, in an understanding that we actually need to do something to protect the township of Franz Josef. It's also about coming out of COVID, providing jobs, reckon to be about 30 jobs. It'll take about 18 months, but it's a great example of when we all work together for an outcome we know that needs to be achieved, that we can get things done. What I'd like to do now is hand over to the Chair of the Regional Council, Alan, for him to say a couple of words, and then Bruce, if you'd like to say a couple of words as well.
Thank you very much, Stuart. I'd very much like to thank the government and the PGF for providing the funding. It's going to be a good project which we need, and it's really going to help the economy of South West London. But also I'd like to recognise Randall, the staff member who's been behind the main driver of the application and following it through. Thank you. Bruce?
Look, from my point of view, I'm absolutely excited. This has been going on for 15 years. And on the coast, to judge a man by what he says and what he does. Stuart Nash came down here, he evaluated, he delivered. That's it for me. It's fantastic. It's such a boost for Franz Josef.
Any questions?
You said that, you know, Franz Josef still needs a longer term solution. Like, you know, we'll still have to move and.
Oh, we will. This is stage one.
Yeah.
There are some really big questions that need to be answered, and there's a lot more work that needs to be done in terms of moving to the next stage. But in terms of protecting the township of Franz Josef, getting that northern stock bank sorted, a little bit of immediate work in the southern one, this is really important. As mentioned, about 30 jobs. It's going to take about 18 months, am I right? Yeah. About 18 months. And, you know, at a time when we've got no international tourists through here, even though there's a lot of tourists, a lot of Kiwis travelling up and down the coast, but no international tourists, it'll provide a great form of income to, you know, to the hotels and Franz, to the guys who are going to be doing the work on the stock bank. So from that perspective, it's great to be able to, you know, to move out of COVID into normality. And by the time this is finished, we'll have international tourists up and down the West Coast spending money like they used to.
And what was the delay? What was the review, you know, that you did on the project?
Well, when you are spending taxpayers' money, there needs to be a level of transparency and accountability. There also needs to be a level of due diligence. And as the Mayor said, you know, this is a project that's been under consideration for a long time. We just need to make sure that we got that right. This is stage one. There are the questions that no doubt Randall and his team will be answering in stage two. That's to come. But this is important that we get this sorted first and foremost.
You talk about this being stage one, and we're looking at a total cost of 12.3 million, 9.2523 from the government, and I'm assuming the remaining 3.07 spread between the regional and district council. Is that correct? Do we have a breakdown on how that will work?
Yes, so it's co-funding is coming through what we call a rating district, which is made up of the local ratepayers and the community, and both councils are also contributing to the co-funding.
Right.
You know, when you look at what happened in 2019, when it took out the bridge, even though it was prepared about 3 weeks, wasn't it?
I think from start to finish.
It started from about 3 weeks. It also took about 50 million out of the local economy. So we need to ensure that the resilience of the highway, let alone the Franz Josef Township, is increased substantially. There was a 1 in 100 year flood, but we're getting more of these sort of 1 in 100 year events with a greater level of frequency. So we do need to ensure that this does happen now. We need to get on with it, because the last thing that the coast needs is another one of these that takes out either side of the passage between Hokitika and Queensland.
And what about maintenance funds, like to maintain these stopbanks? If it gets washed out in the next big flood, you know, it's going to be an ongoing cost.
Well, there's an ongoing cost to all our roads up and down the country, so that's part of the Wakakatahi fund. But this one, is money out of our resilience fund, the COVID fund, to make sure that we get this done and provide jobs. As Bruce said, it's been on the books for a long time. We now need to get it done. The money is now there to do it. I'm assuming we've got 30 fit young men and women who are prepared to get out there and make sure it happens. Work for 18 months. That's great news for a lot of people who perhaps are working in tourism and are wondering where their future is. If they've moved away, an opportunity to come back, do this for 18 months and then move back into their tourism jobs. So again, it's not just resilience for the road, it's a level of economic resilience for communities as well.
Do we have an idea about exactly when this project will start on stage 1 onwards back?
So we'll run through a tender process. We'll appoint a lead contractor to be the project manager for the project. There's a intent to put it in place and we'll be on the way.
Shouldn't take too long.
And so this is, been called stage 1. Stage 2, I'm assuming the southern bank. Do we have any timing or planning or costing around that as well?
Well, there's a number of options for stage 2, but no matter what option is landed upon, stage 1 has to take place anyway. So whether it's a realignment of the road or building a new road or whatever, this building up the northern stop bank is a vital part to whatever route you end up taking or decisions that need to be made.
You talked about the tough issues when it came to planning, and this is long-term planning for Franz Josef. And, because Franz Josef Fox Glacier will not be glacier towns forever. We've seen the glacier retreat about in the last decade. So, when you talk about the tough issues, are these issues around the town's future in the long term? Moving the town to get it away from the natural hazard of sitting on the fault line and being so close to the river. What are some of the tough issues, and what's the town going to look like, do you think, in 10 or 15 years' time?
So I'll make one comment, then I'll hand it over to these two gentlemen who are probably better able to answer that question. First and foremost, we do need this road open. There's no doubt we need it secure, and we need a level of structural integrity that's going to ensure that when we do get these floods, that the road is going to be fine, because no matter what the towns look like, we need our tourists and our locals and our businessmen and women to be able to travel up and down the west coast. In terms of
I think the thing that's really critical is that tourism on the west coast is going to grow exponentially. Some may disagree with that. I believe it will definitely grow. The glacier country, with the glaciers going backwards, is still in the heart of a World Heritage Area. It's the most beautiful place you've ever seen. You look at Fox Glacier this morning from down on the highway, it's just stunning. So the numbers are coming back. We've got to be prepared. And as the Minister said, without a road going through, being protected by the flood walls, we endanger both Queenstown, the coast and Christchurch. And we're simply not going to let that happen. So I'm extremely excited about the next 10 years on the coast. I think we're in a boom time.
I couldn't agree more with you, mate. I mean, if you have a look at the offerings down at Franz Josef, for example, at the moment, you got your hot pools, you've got your Kiwi experience, which is the Kiwi house, which is fantastic. It's the work that you're doing there. You've got the flights onto the glacier. You've got if you take off in a helicopter there are so many fantastic things you can end up doing. You've got primordial forest, in terms of tramping and some of the amazing rainforest experiences you can have through there. And what we know about Kiwi tourist operators is they're resilient, they're innovative. When one thing disappears, another opportunity will pop up. But that glacier, there will always be walks up to the terminal moraine or for an area where you can actually see the glacier. Yeah. But on a fantastic day like today or like yesterday, just the view itself, you wake up, you open the curtains and you see the Southern Alps and you go, man, it doesn't get any better than this. So it's not just about the glacier, it's about a suite of tourism operations.
Yeah. So, the towns can transform themselves into becoming, outdoor, backdoor adventure tourism destinations in the future, can't they?
It's one of the things we market ourselves globally on. It's the clean, very 100% pure, and in my view, nothing epitomises that more than some of these towns up and down the coast. I can take a Franz Josef, Fox, the perfect examples of the offering we go to the international market with.
You know, I know the ministers, you've landed on the snow up there at some stage. Yesterday, beautiful day. You know, you get out of the helicopter and you think that no one's ever been there before. It is the most stunning experience. And many people say it's the best experience they have from a tourism aspect in New Zealand.
Southern side, the southern side of the river, we're going to do.
There's a little bit of my understanding, Randall, there's a little bit of remedial work with southern, but this is predominantly the northern stock bank, am I right?
Yeah, this is purely about providing the town with the space and safety, so to allow it to grow and move to the north.
Yeah.
At time.
So the southern is not as integral to the town's long-term security, it's the northern side, that's the main issue.
This project is focusing on that resilience for the northern side.
Yeah.
And what I'd say, Helen, is, you know, we mentioned 2 or 3 options for stage 2. They need to be worked through. There's a lot more due diligence on that. Whatever option we arrive at, the northern stock bank had to be completed anyway.
Yeah.
And is there a stage 3 then? Or is it?
Well, there's a stage 2, but again, that's a bit further down the track when we do a bit more work assessing the options and what that might look like.
Just, yeah, and build a new road or moving the road or.
Have to see what comes out of the due diligence on that. Those are decisions for another day. But actually, back to the economic resilience. I mean, I was up in the helicopter, my family and I were up in the helicopter yesterday, landed on the snow, as Chris said, there were no footprints anywhere around there. Speaking to the pilot, he'd just been out dropping off hunters who were doing some trophy hunting in another part of the of the park. So there's always work for these guys. There's always opportunities. If you're not on the glacier and you're into your hunting, there's too many deer out in the bush. You want to come hunting out here and get dropped off by a helicopter into probably some of the finest, native forest we've got in this country. You can come down and do that. So there are plenty of things that people can do that attract a whole range of different tourists for different reasons and different experiences.
I think the big thing is that we can't forget is we've been on this for 15 years. I was a lot younger then, 15 years, and here we are now, and it's happened. And I'm just, Minister, I'm absolutely delighted. I think you've done a great job, Randall. The PGF group, Alan, your team.
I'd also like to give credit to Damien O'Connor, the local MP as well. I mean, he's been pushing really hard on this. He'd love to be here today, but unfortunately he's further down the coast. But he's also been pushing really hard for a long time with this, Bruce, as well. So pretty good credits too.
What do you got?
Woohoo! Oh, sorry.